to Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What up, Kings fans? Welcome to Royal Rebounds, a Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to smash that like button down below, and we would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this via your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate a 5-star rating and also a subscription as well. And you can always join us live here on YouTube. Just search up Royal Rebounds and you'll find the channel. But it's Thursday. We're 2 weeks away from the NBA draft, and Calvin and I are here in the studio breaking down the Kings, what they need, whether they should trade up, trade down, stay put, and give you our thoughts on some of these top picks in the NBA draft. We posted a video yesterday of Kings offseason needs where we break down the salary cap and some stuff like that. So if you're interested, please check out that video. It is on this channel as well as on our other channel, Basketball at the Bar. Also want to remind you all that we are giving away a FANATICS gift card. So I'm going to put a link to that below in the description and also in the chat box. So make sure you go in and enter in to win that. Calvin, what's up? We're here.
We are here.
We just finished up on Basketball at the Bar, which is our live stream that we do every single weekday. So if you are interested in joining us live every day, we're on that channel. That's where you can find us. But don't worry, we're still putting out a ton of Kings content this offseason on Royal Rebound, so we will be here. Shout out to Jim. Shout out to Charlie. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Calvin, let's jump right into it. So, we've been looking at some mock drafts. They've been changing a little bit, not too much. But I think we need to discuss the topic of where the Kings are going to be drafting, because they moved up in the draft lottery. They actually moved up the most out of any team in the draft lottery, securing pick number 4. That pick is projected to be a guard. The Kings are good at drafting guards.
They're very good at it.
As they've done in the past 2 seasons. But we've heard some rumors about them potentially moving up, moving down. I want to hear your thoughts. What are the Kings' best moves to make 2 Thursdays from now?
Well, look, I don't see how you could end up with a better draft day scenario than moving up to the number 2 pick. As we've heard, it's been rumored already to that deal possibly has already been done. And selecting whoever is there at number 2, whether it's Jabari Smith or Chet Holmgren. Those are the 2 best prospects overall in the class. They're the 2 best big men in the class. They fit areas of need for the Sacramento Kings. That, to me, is by far the best case scenario.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Pick 4 is rough because of the guard situation when you're taking best available or like fit, stuff like that. I think the Kings definitely need to move up in this draft, and you nailed it on the head there. Smith and Holmgren are the 2 guys that I'm targeting. They're my favorite players in this year's NBA draft, and having pick 2 guarantees you to get one of those guys.
Right.
Now, there's a weird scenario where potentially at pick 4, one of those guys could drop, or if you're able to trade up to pick 3, one of those guys could fall, and you could pick one of them, but nothing I really want to be betting the house on.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to let everyone know so that's your first best case scenario. What is option number 2 for you if you're the Kings?
Option number 2 for me would be trading down, and not trading down too far. I'm thinking more of like trading down to 5 or 6 potentially, to where you could get a player in return that's going to be a good rotation player for you, or even possibly a starter, depending on who it is. And you still have available to pick from an assortment of wings, whichever the one you like the best is, whether it's Shaedon Sharpe or Keegan Murray or even AJ Griffin, whose name has been thrown out a lot lately as we're getting closer and closer to draft day.
Yep. Shout out to T here, Progressive G. I see you guys here in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Jim, I feel you, man. Watching, videos last night, I'm concerned about taking another guy from Duke, especially another big man. And if we traded up to pick number 2 to draft another guy from Duke at pick 2, I do have some concerns there. But I definitely think that the Kings are in a much better position than they were in that draft as far as management goes and scouting abilities. Maybe there's not a Luka Doncic in this draft, but I'm happy with where the Kings are at right now. But I agree with Calvin. I think you got to trade up to pick 2 or maybe trade down to pick 6. Pick 4, as much as I'm happy the Kings got the pick, and I'm still happy because if they do move down to pick 6, 7, 8, maybe where they were projected to go, maybe they can pick up another asset, which is really what the Kings just need to do, right? Is every offseason they just need to continue to pick up assets, whether that's draft picks, whether it's players, whether it's expiring contracts that you can flip to a contender for more picks or more players. And I think the Kings are in a great position here to do that. Do you want to explain why staying put is probably the worst case scenario right now for the Kings?
Well, to me, it's the worst case scenario because if they stay at 4, I fear that they're going to draft Jaden Ivey. And I fear that because I don't like what it means for the team. I do think that Jaden Ivey is a very talented prospect that has a lot of potential. Some people think he's got the most potential out of any player available in this class. But again, for me, I don't see the need or the want to take another guard here, even if he does have all the talent that people, rightfully so say he does. It just doesn't seem to me to advance the team that much further. A lot of people are really high on Dante DiVincenzo. People are even high on Terrence Davis coming back from injury
Davion
next
Mitchell.
year. Davion Mitchell's another guard. It's the same problem that we're going to have as what the Kings started with last offseason. And, how do you organize all the minutes for these guys? What's the right rotation to play? Is the fit with De'Aaron Fox the right move? Those are all too big of question marks to me, especially when you've got potential to go out and get positions that are much, much higher in terms of area of need for me in this draft, like a power forward or a versatile rotational wing that can play 3 or 4. Yeah. That, to me, is by far the biggest, as I'm seeing this question here, area of need that the Kings should address. Whether that's making a trade for a win-now player, all the names that we've already heard, John Collins, Pascal Siakam, all those guys, that would be a great move if it's possible, or using your current draft pick as leverage to move up or down to secure one of those players in this draft class.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of debate around best player available versus fit and what you think, the Kings need to do with their draft pick. But I guess what Calvin is suggesting here is that you should take the best player available, but you should try and move up draft pick or move down draft pick wise so that fit and best player available is the same exact guy. And I think that's what you're getting to here is, yes, the Kings need maybe another shooting guard or a wing. They need a 4. They need to figure out those positions. But if you can move up to 2, you're getting the best player available that fits that need. If you move down to 6, maybe you can pick up that best player available that fits the need and get another asset. As far as me, Progressive G, biggest need for the Kings is adding more talent this offseason.
Yeah, for sure.
But biggest draft need is kind of along those same lines as they need a productive player that's going to be healthy, that's going to remain with the squad. But if you're able to trade down and pick up other assets as well, I guess that would be a need or help fulfill one of those needs as well. But right now I'm in the boat of Kings need to trade up to pick 2.
I agree. That's definitely the best possible scenario for them.
I don't think Charlie is a big fan of Smith here. He said it's a big red flag. He shot 40% 2% from the field, and 42% from three. Massive red flag. What are your thoughts, Calvin?
Yeah, I mean, those numbers are not great. Well, 43% from three is fantastic, but there is not a franchise-changing player or a, LeBron James type prospect, a clear consensus all-star level player available in this class. Every single one of these guys has red flags. The question for me when it comes to what do you do with your pick is, again, not necessarily always about best available player. It's what does that prospect bring to your team? Jabari Smith is one of the most talented for big men, perimeter defenders available in this class. That's something the Kings need. He's a power forward that can stretch the floor. That's something that the Kings need. So maybe he's not what a lot of people view as worthy of the number one pick. But again, the Kings are not picking at number one. Even if they move to number two, they're taking whoever you would think gets left to them between those two guys, right? So Jabari Smith has a ton of potential to be a great player in the league. And when you're one of the worst defensive teams out there, the Kings have been historically bad defensively. You need to address that. And this guy would definitely help address that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is my favorite prospect in the draft. And I understand what you're saying about red flags and stuff like that. Calvin has a good point, too, that a lot of players have red flags. But on your point, the Kings need a 4. Dude can play the 4. They need shooting. He's an incredible shooter. They need defense. He's an
outside shooter.
He's an incredible defender. We were talking about it earlier on Basketball at the Bar. My concerns with him are decision-making ability and passing ability. Yeah. Decision-making ability is something that, if you're capable, you can definitely improve that, especially in the NBA, working with a lot of these guys, and maybe that helps his field goal percentage out. But just on the defensive end alone, I love this guy. And I've said it in the past, I'm going to say it again. I'm a big fan of guys that are ahead defensively and the offensive end kind of catches up to them because I feel like those players have a much better ceiling. But the dude is already an incredible three-point shooter. I think his game will transition very, very well to the NBA. And I love the fit next to a guy like Domantas Sabonis.
I agree.
I really do.
He's, in terms of what NBA teams are looking for right now at the wing or the power forward position, he checks pretty much every single box.
Yep. What's up, Patrick? Good to see you here. We're having a lot of fun. Hopefully you are having fun today as well. He says we need to address our need in free agency, but in the draft, get their best player available. That's how Monty works. Yeah, I think they just need to find a way to basically leverage themselves into, like what I was saying, get into the pick that makes sense so that they can draft the best player available and get value from that pick.
Yep.
Chet would be a dream. Ivey has been my favorite since this draft started. Ivey was my favorite early on as well, but I've kind of
a ton of things to like about him.
Yeah, I've kind of shifted towards Calvin's perspective in the terms of like, do we want another guard? Because we've all talked about, yes, the Kings need to figure out who their starting shooting guard is next season. Like, that is a top priority. But you have a guy like Davion Mitchell who's been playing incredibly well. Not saying that he should be the starter. I'm just saying you have him. You have Terrence Davis, who's played well in spurts. Mm-hmm. You have Dante DiVincenzo, a guy that you traded for twice. What's going to happen with him? And then you have the Holiday brother as well. So it's like, what do you do here? I think the position that needs to be filled first is probably the power forward. And that's why I'm looking towards one of these top 3 guys in the draft. Calvin, let's talk about the guy from Duke. Go for it.
Paolo Banchero, incredibly skilled big man. The ability to run your offense, from the power forward position, effortless, shooter and playmaker, really handles the ball well. He's just incredibly skilled offensively. And I think he has been overlooked at times in this draft process because he played on a really, really solid team. They never really asked him to be like the go-to guy. I'm sure he did it in spurts for them. But even when you look back, at games in the NCAA tournament, he doesn't jump off the screen to you with like highlight plays or anything, but that's because he's so much ahead of where most guys are in college. This guy is NBA ready from a body standpoint 100% and has skill at 6'10" to go along with it. But the question marks for him are on the defensive side of the ball. And so that's why for me, if you're going to take a power forward in one of the top 3 picks, I'm going with guys who have skill offensively, maybe not as much as Banchero, probably from a Jabari Smith standpoint, but I'm going with guys who can bring stuff to the table on offense and are much, much further ahead of him defensively already.
Yeah. I could see a scenario where the Kings end up with this guy, and that's simply based on the fact that I think he's the most NBA-ready prospect currently. He's got the body. He's ready to play. And if you're the Kings and you're like, okay, we need to make the playoffs this year, and we're striking out in free agency, or we don't really have many other guys on our radar, we need a guy that's ready to perform from day one and solidify that position. If he falls to pick number 4, we've heard about Houston potentially being interested in Jaden Ivey. I don't know why. We talked about all the guards that they have on their roster. But, if Paolo drops to pick 4, maybe that's an ideal situation for the Kings where you get a guy that fits a position of need. Maybe he's the best player available if Ivey's gone, and he's ready to perform day one.
Yeah, I mean, look, they could do worse, certainly, than drafting Banchero, especially if they're staying at 4. If Ivey does happen to come off the board first, it's tough though. I'm not. I think that they could make a few other picks here, whether it's at 4 or moving up, moving down, that are going to help the team more in the short run.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I got to catch up here with the chat. You guys are killing it here. Charlie, we always appreciate all your comments. What do you want to do? What do you want the Kings to do with the pick? Would you rather them trade it? Would you rather them move up, move down, or who do you like it for? I'd like to hear from you, for sure. Rick says, trade Holiday, please. What's up, Rick? Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Holiday was not brought here for a specific reason. He was a trade filler to get rid of Buddy Hield's contract. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's played well in spurts, and he could potentially be maybe like a 1-year gap filler if, the Kings decide we're going to solidify the 4 position first, and then we're going to let these 3 guards that we have compete for the position if at the end of the year, or maybe the trade deadline, if none of them have solidified themselves as the starting shooting guard, then we attack that position as well. I could see both of those situations. I have a great feeling that Monty is going to get Chet. He wants to make a splash. Thoughts, Calvin?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree that Monty is all in here on doing what is necessary or whatever it takes to further the progression of this team, and whether that's making a splash via trade or like we saw with Sabonis last season, or moving up in this draft to go and get somebody like Chet Holmgren. That for sure. There can't be anybody out there that thinks Monty McNair doesn't want to make a serious move here.
Yeah. What do you think it would cost to trade up to pick 2?
That's a good question. Oklahoma City is a tough team to guess what they want, right? Like they've already got everyone's draft pick.
Yeah.
And in terms of a roster standpoint, they've got a ton of holes. So like maybe they want Richaun Holmes because they don't really have a center. Maybe they want Harrison Barnes because he's a wing, a veteran, and is on an expiring contract. I don't really know what they would be asking for to go from 4 to 2.
Yeah.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, if I was just going to look at that team and say, okay, what have they wanted in the past? I'm going to say they want more draft picks, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm the Kings, am I like, okay, we're betting it all on this year. We're making the playoffs this year. So maybe if we believe that whoever we get at pick 2 or whatever our plan is at offseason, that we are going to make the playoffs, then our first-round pick next year maybe isn't that valuable. and maybe we can protect it. Maybe not lottery protected, but maybe top 5 protected or something like that, to where if this season just kind of all falls apart, like it's happened many times in the past, you have kind of a backup plan. So for me, I think it's going to take another draft pick, potentially next year's first-round pick, to move up to pick 2. So that brings another can of worms, right? Because you can't trade consecutive draft picks.
Yeah.
So maybe you tell Oklahoma City, we want Smith or Holmgren, whoever falls to pick number 2. Who do you guys want at pick 4? And then as soon as you draft the player at pick 4, you trade the 4th pick and next year's first rounder, maybe top 5, top 10 protected would be ideal for whoever they drafted at pick 2.
Yeah, I like that.
That's something I see that would make it happen.
And one thing that the Kings might have working in their favor is I've read a few reports that the Thunder are high on Jaden Ivey as well.
Yeah.
So that could benefit the Kings in terms of what they have to give up to move to number 2 and have Oklahoma City move back to 4, because from Oklahoma City's standpoint, they're going to get the player that they might want anyway out of that deal.
And yeah, and on that point, we've seen it in the past where teams like Boston, they had the number 1 overall pick. They could have taken anybody in the draft they wanted, and they decided, we like Jason Tatum. We think he's going to be the best player in the draft, and he was so far.
Oh, I think he's by far the best player.
And they're like, we're going to trade down to take the best player available at the spot he was slotted to go.
Yeah.
We also saw it with Doncic and Trae Young. So that's definitely possible. Charlie says he'd look to trade back.
I like that scenario as well.
And use Holmes in the early second-round pick to get Brogdon and Anunoby. If that's possible, I like both of those moves. But then you're pulling in another guard in Brogdon. You think Brogdon and Fox would play together well?
I do like the potential of that because I love Malcolm Brogdon from a defensive standpoint. And again, for me, I'm all in on trying to get players that are going to make this team be able to stop people. That's been by far their biggest hole.
And if you can trade back and get Keegan Murray to solidify that 4 position, then that gives you even more options as well. A lot of good comments here. We appreciate you guys. Jim says it would take 4 and an unprotected first next year to move up. That's possible. I mean, you're only moving up 2 spots.
It's really hard to predict what it would take, especially when you're dealing with a team like Oklahoma City.
Maybe top 3 protected next year. I don't know. That you're only moving up 2 spots. Progressive G, what all-star level talent is on the trading block that the Kings could go after with the 4th pick? Julius Randle, ?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, his name definitely keeps coming up, and the Knicks are, one of those teams that are supposed to be pretty aggressive in trying to move up in this draft right now. So they don't have a ton of guys on that roster that they could really dangle out as incentive for teams to move that far back. Julius Randle would definitely be one of them.
I'm not trading pick 4 for Julius Randle. I'm sorry. I like Julius Randle. I think he's a good player, but I'm not giving up the 4th pick for him. It would take much, much more. But if I'm moving down to 11 in Julius Randle, maybe I would consider that. But straight up 4th pick for Julius Randle, not going to do it.
Yeah.
What about trading the 4th pick for Zach LaVine?
Well, it's going to have to be a sign-and trade because he's an unrestricted free agent. So I'm not sure how that deal would work exactly.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I see why the Kings would do that. I see why the Bulls would do that. I don't see why Zach LaVine would do that.
Yeah.
Don't see why Zach LaVine would do that. But I like the thought, Sean. I like the shot, or the thought. Patrick likes Dyson Daniels. What are your thoughts on Dyson Daniels?
He's one of the maybe biggest question marks, I think, in the whole draft. Like, I think there's a ton to really like about him. He's a very, very skilled passer, has a lot of defensive potential, pretty good shooter, and comes from what is emerging more and more every year to be like the farm system of the NBA. The G League Ignite team seems to be a great path to get guys ready to play in the NBA. And this guy has really kind of risen up the draft boards a lot recently. If you went back a couple of months, this guy was not talked about really as a top 10 pick, but has been much, much more so lately. I like him. I like him as a prospect. I think he's a really solid overall player. But again, I just go back to the idea of, do I want to take another guard? And I don't. I really don't. I would much rather move up and take a power forward or move back and take a wing.
Smash that like button. Charlie says, maybe I've got to the point where I'm over-analyzing Keegan Murray, but I like Dyson Daniels more. But do you like the fit more is my question for you, Charlie, because they play different positions. And Calvin's got a good point in drafting another guard. And what kind of message does that send to De'Aaron Fox, right, if you're just drafting another guard? A lot of questions here. Calvin, the availability or potential availability of guys like John Collins and DeAndre Ayton, does that make you question whether you should be drafting a big man?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, again, I think that Monty is going to do everything, explore every option here, right? As the draft approaches and on draft day, when they're in the war room, they're going to be calling all these teams, Atlanta and Toronto. They have to, they've got to check all those boxes. And if something, is available for them to make a move and grab one of those players, if they feel like they're not going to give up too much to do it, they think they probably will. It makes a lot of sense to do those deals. The question is, will the negotiations even out and both sides come to an agreement?
Yeah, Jim says trade Fox to the Knicks for Randall and 11th. I think Ivey and Daniels will both be gone at pick number 11, but maybe you could get a guy like Johnny Davis. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because the Kings, you don't want to show your hand and you want to set your team up for success, but at the same time, you're kind of on a clock now where it's we need to make the playoffs. There's a lot of amazing players here in the draft, but how many of them are ready to win now?
Yeah, you're still technically rebuilding, but this may be one of the longest rebuilds in NBA history. At some point, you've got to construct a team that's going to win here.
Patrick wants to talk more about Victor Oladipo. Him and Domantas Sabonis have some chemistry. Would love that. What are your thoughts on bringing back Victor Oladipo? And do any of these guys that we're talking about here in free agency have any impact on what you're doing in the draft? Or is it draft first and then figure out the rest later?
Well, I think that's probably a two-part answer question. I mean, yes, they definitely affect each other, but the draft is first, free agency is second. So, if you're not able to make a trade that brings you in, a win now player or whatever, I think you have to focus first on the draft. And they don't have the number one pick either, so it's not like they can just take anybody. They're dependent on the people that get picked in front of them, wherever that spot is going to be. So it's a complicated answer, I think. They definitely affect each other, but you kind of have to take what comes to you first.
Yep.
I would say. And then in terms of Victor Oladipo, I think that's a great move for the Kings. Great move. Again, it depends on how much you're going to pay him. I think that you can get him for a pretty reasonable deal. There's a really high upside potentially for grabbing somebody like that. And he fits team needs. He's a really solid defender. If he stays healthy, I mean, at times he was one of the better guards in the NBA. That would be a great addition for this team.
Yeah, I like Victor Oladipo a lot. My favorite part about him is probably going to be the price tag that it costs to bring him to this team. That is one of the concerns I have with bringing in Ayton or John Collins or somebody like that, is they make so much money. It really, prevents your team from making moves in the future. And that's another reason why I'm going to say I would love to move up to pick number 2 and take one of these big men, because you have them locked up for 4 years on a relatively reasonable deal. It's going to be $9-10 million or something like that, as opposed to a $20+ million player elsewhere. So I'm taking it one step at a time, but I think the Kings got to move up here to pick number 2. I really do. Kings are not trading up. They do not want to give up future picks, and they do not have any player that would entice a team with a higher pick. I don't know if I agree with that. I'd love to hear
the other teams say that. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I agree with that.
Making an assumption, which might be right, but
yeah,
it's hard to speak in absolutes right now when you talk about the draft in terms of anything.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, the only thing we can really go for or go from in terms of this is Monty said he's going to be really aggressive. So to me, that means I'm willing to trade my picks. I'm willing to trade whatever it takes to get another player or to improve this roster. And I think it's all on the table at this point. Charlie, I still stand by De'Aaron Fox as not being a franchise player. Dude only excels when the rest of the NBA stops giving a shit. I mean, whether that's true or not, they chose De'Aaron Fox as the franchise player.
The Kings are all in on him, so that's you're perfectly right there. Whether you think he is or not doesn't matter, because that Sacramento is all in on him at this point.
Jim asks, if you have a choice between Chet and Jabari, who would you take?
I'm going to disagree with you here. I do really like Jabari Smith a lot. There's a lot about him that makes me very, very intrigued and excited to have him as a part of my team. But I'm going with the guy who's projected to be the best overall prospect in this class, can do so many different things, and really is, I don't like the term unicorn, but like he really is one of those types of players. There's very few people out there that can do what he can do on a basketball court, both on offense and on defense. So if I have a chance to get that guy, I'm definitely going to take him.
Yeah, I like Smith a lot better, and it's the perimeter defense that I love the most from him. I think that he is going to transition very, very well to the NBA. I just look at, like, for me, the past 5 years, I've just been saying, look, the NBA is changing. Everybody's getting taller. They're being able to shoot the ball better from three-point range. And I think everybody needs to defend every single position. And that's the thing that really sticks out for me, is this guy can defend all 5 positions. I'm talking about Jabari Smith here. Can defend all 5 positions. He can shoot the ball incredibly well from the three-point line. And he's big. He is the prototypical big man for me in the NBA. Yeah. And I was telling Calvin before the show here, this comparison might not be ideal, but he reminds me of a Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe not as good as of a rim protector, but a great defender, and he can shoot the 3-ball extremely well. Jaren Jackson has had moments where he's shot the ball incredibly well from three-point range.
Been very streaky.
But I think Jabari Smith, is way more consistent. And just to think about fit versus need and best player available and all that stuff, if you can get Smith with pick number 2, that's all the birds with one stone. Like, you're getting the best player available.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
he fits.
I would be happy with either one of these
well
at 2.
And just to think about a combination between Jabari Smith and Domantas Sabonis, I think they complement each other ideally, and I think it gives more room for Sabonis and a guy like De'Aaron Fox to both get to the basket. But that being said, I like both players. I'd be perfectly happy having Chet Holmgren on this squad. My only concerns with him is durability, health, and size. All right. Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. It seems like the league is trying to speak these rumors into existence. This league is not a fan of the Kings, so I'm going to be the touter.
Hey, that's totally fair. I don't... it makes total sense to have that outlook and that perspective in it. And it's a very realistic possibility. The Kings might not be able to trade up to 2.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we appreciate that. Thank you. We will definitely buy some beers. Calvin and I are going to Waikiki this weekend, and we're going to have a lot of fun. If you guys ever find yourself in Waikiki, you got to check out High's Steakhouse. I think it's in the Hilton. We were looking at the menu last night.
We're trying to go. We're trying.
Oh, my God.
Looks amazing.
It is phenomenal. I got to get the steak Oscar. But
Yes.
I might be getting
the seafood tower.
couple different things there. It
sure.
looks awesome. Progressive G, I do think the NBA is getting taller. Maybe not in terms of like we're seeing a lot of big men or teams playing like smaller, but in terms of like everybody is getting taller and they're doing more and more things. Yes. Like how often do you see a 7-foot guy that can handle and shoot like Kevin Durant? Like we have not really seen that much. Now we're seeing Porzingis, not that he's anywhere close, but he can do a lot of the same things. We're seeing guys like Chet Holmgren. We're just seeing bigger guys that can shoot. They're more versatile. We're not finding the 7-footers that can only rebound and block shots, and that's all they can do anymore.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is not necessarily the height of players, but it's the prototypical NBA player, the skill set.
Yeah, positionless.
We are seeing lots more teams move towards smaller lineups.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Warriors have been doing it for a long time, but the teams are definitely moving towards we're going with like 6'9", 6'8", and
Yes.
under guys. But the difference might be in that there are more players out there now from the 6'6" to 6'9" range that do so much, are able to cover all these different positions, switch screens back and forth, all that stuff. So it's kind of, I think, a blend of both.
Yeah, like you're not going to have the 7'3" guy that is the specialist that can only do this and only can do that, and you're not going to have the 6-foot guy that can only handle the ball and pass. Like Calvin's saying, everybody is going to be 6'8" to 7 foot. They're all going to be able to switch. They're all going to be able to shoot. They're all going to be able to pass the ball. Like it's this positionless basketball where we're seeing everybody become the same prototypical player. And I see the league definitely moving in that direction. I feel like there's more small, like 6'8" centers than ever. Yeah, just more skilled and just, I guess, not in terms of like the entire team is getting bigger, but like the smaller guys are getting eliminated. You find Charlie's tweet there?
I did. It's a 4-team deal, so get ready for this.
Let's hear it.
We'll start with the Kings, I guess. The Kings, this is Charlie's perfect draft day. Is this your draft day scenario trade? Yeah. The Kings receive OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Miami's first-round pick, 27th overall for this year.
Okay.
The Raptors receive Justin Holiday, Rashawn Holmes, a first-round pick from the Blazers, number 7 overall, and the Kings' second-round pick at number 37. The Blazers receive Maurice Harkless and the number 4 overall pick from the Kings. And Miami receives the Blazers' second-round pick, 36th overall, and the Raptors' second-round pick, 33rd overall.
So the
So
Blazers,
a lot of information there.
Blazers are moving up to 4.
Blazers
That's what I got from that.
Are giving up 7 and moving to 4.
Kings get Anunoby,
Josh Hart, and the 27th overall pick.
Ooh, I don't know if I'm down with that deal.
There's a lot going on in this deal. I'm not sure what Miami's incentive overall in this deal is. I realize they're the team that needs the least out of all of these guys. So, but man, I don't know. I like the deal for certain reasons, but again, I go back to what I've said before on this channel. Anytime you have a trade that involves more than 2 teams, it is damn near impossible to get it done. Like there's just so much stuff that has to go right in order, and a 4-team deal is obviously even bigger. So
I like Josh Hart, I like OG, but I think the 4th pick is worth a lot more than those guys.
Yeah,
I really do.
I don't know. I'd have to think more about it.
And they're giving up Holiday too, which you could probably get maybe a late first-round pick for him.
Yeah, I
from
mean,
a
you are getting
contender
Anunoby in return, though. Like, I think that's an upgrade from Holiday.
Yeah, but not for the 4th pick. I don't know. Patrick says, I truly think Monty will make a huge move because of the contract concerns for Domas. We got to show him we want to win. By us giving up Tyrese shows that he has some big coming for next season. Yeah, I mean, I agree. You're basically proving to him why he should stay. And you got to make a big move. And I think Monty's totally on board. He said that. He said he's going to be aggressive. He said there's times where he needs to be patient. There's times where he needs to be aggressive. This offseason, he needs to be aggressive. I think we all agree. What's up, Fred? Thank you for joining us. We appreciate the super chat. I'm not sure if you were here with us earlier, but Calvin and I are heading to Waikiki this weekend. So thank you for the beer money.
Yes, we will use all 99 cents of that. That's for sure.
Much appreciated. $9.99.
Well, I meant like the leftover.
Yeah.
You know, we'll take it down to the penny for sure.
Kevin says, can I interest the Kings in Tobias Harris?
Are you a Sixers fan, Kevin?
He was in that movie last night.
There's just so many people in that movie.
Yeah. If you guys haven't watched Hustle yet on Netflix, I watched it last night. Great movie. A lot of cameos. Yeah. Really, really cool movie. All right, Progressive G. I feel like there's more small, like 6'8" centers than ever, but I do agree that players are becoming way more skilled. Yeah, it's evolving. It's evolving, that's for sure. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting offseason, guys. Hopefully you are excited as I am, because I'm ecstatic. We got the draft in 2 weeks, dude. 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So we're going to be live next Thursday again to go over all these things. And then the Thursday after that, we'll be live for the draft. So make sure you guys join us for that. Maybe we'll have Calvin DJing again, having fun here. But there is a lot of stuff to happen for the Kings this offseason. And I'm going to say it again. Kings are making the playoffs, but it all starts with the draft. So that is very, very exciting. Kevin says, I am a fan of Halliburton. Any lingering pain at that trade? I mean, you got to move on, man. Got to move on. Can't be living in the past. I was a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan. I still am a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan. I want him to do well. Yeah. But having pain or being upset about that.
You got any lingering pain from the Jimmy Butler trade?
Ain't going to ruin my day. And, you know, if I was mad about Halliburton, I'd be mad about still be mad about Doncic. I'd be mad about Damian Lillard. I'd be mad about all these other guys that the Kings could have had. But I can't live my life that way.
Yeah,
I'll be mad about not buying Bitcoin in 2012. I think it's easy to say
that there will be, for sure, lingering pain for a lot of Kings fans until the Kings make the playoffs, right? Like, that's the only way out.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, that is the pain that I'm feeling. It's the constant losing pain, not the what could have, should have, didn't happen. Patrick says, is Chet a good three-point shooter? I think so.
Yeah. He might not be the best three-point shooter in the class or even the best big man three-point shooter, but he can definitely shoot it.
Yeah. And I think his above the rim ability is definitely understated. I think he's great. It's funny. I'll let you guys know here, but I was talking to Calvin before we started the show, and this is a horrible comparison, so don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. It's really a horrible comparison. But watching Chet Holmgren sometimes, I'm like, this guy reminds me of a DeAndre Jordan that has an offensive game that can handle the ball, pass, and shoot the three. Like, the way he plays defense, the way he blocks shots, and the way that he can catch lobs, like, he is DeAndre Jordan plus everything that DeAndre Jordan was missing.
And, like, half his size.
Yeah.
His girth.
He needs to bulk up. He does. He does. We all agree there. But Calvin, you and I, we grew up as pretty skinny guys. Like, we're still pretty skinny. But it's just something that comes with age. And yeah, I mean, watching interviews with him, he is a workaholic. He's like, I love basketball. I grind. He's like, I'm on the court 6 days a week.
Yep.
He's like, I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I'm doing all this, all that. Which is great in terms of like developing skills and all that, but it's not always the best for when you're trying to gain weight, because you could be eating 1,000 calories a day, but if you're burning,
he's eating a ton.
There
was a point in my life where I ate 5,000 calories a day, and I was only able to put on 10 pounds. So some guys it just doesn't work, right? Or it's not as easy.
Yeah, I would just say, Chet, have you tried beer? Because beer works great.
Ask Luka.
Yeah, it works great. Oh, man. Fred says, if we can move up to get Chet, would be the bomb and not give up a bundle. Yeah, I'm with you, Fred. I think the Kings need to move up to 2. I'm throwing it out there. I think you give a top 5 protected pick next year and this year's pick number 4 to move up to 2. If you can get Chet or Jabari, I am ecstatic. And, Calvin, I do have to throw it out here. Jabari Smith is not the consensus number 1 pick. Like, a lot of people, he's number 1 on a lot of draft boards, but not all of them. And we don't know the Magic are for sure taking him.
No, definitely not.
So we could see
odds-on favorite right now to go number 1.
Yeah, we could see things happen. Like, who would have picked Anthony Bennett to go number 1 to Cleveland? Right?
Yeah, that's true.
You can't predict that. But I remember the Kings, I think, had the 8th pick that year, and they were projected to get Anthony Bennett with the 8th pick, and I was not sold. I was never sold on Anthony Bennett. And as soon as
then you started questioning yourself when he goes number 1 overall?
No, but as soon as he goes number 1, I'm like, yes, yes, he goes number 1, yes. The Kings are not going to take Anthony Bennett, and we got screwed anyway, so that's kind of how it goes. Progressive G says, I'm in more pain about Luka. I mean, yeah, I feel you on that. There is a lot of pain with Luka Doncic because the dude is an absolute stud. But it kind of goes to what Calvin and I have been talking about in terms of, like, players, right? Like, you can't, like, there's guys that you love to hate, right? Like, I'd throw Draymond Green out there as a guy that, like, everybody loves to hate. But then you have guys like Jordan, Doncic, LeBron, Kobe, where people just hate them because they are who they are. Like, I hated Kobe because he's a Laker and I'm a Kings fan. But I could still appreciate how good of a player he was. And I think that's kind of the point on Doncic is just because you have the pain or he didn't end up with your team being the Kings, like, you can still appreciate how good of a player he is and try and turn that hate or that pain into joy of being a basketball fan and being able to watch a guy doing amazing things because he is an amazing player. And I think the Kings will rebound. So I'm not worried. Do you like watching Doncic?
Hell yeah, I do.
He's a lot of fun.
I like watching great basketball players.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right, Xavier, appreciate the super chat. Any thoughts on who you consider to draft with our 2 picks in the second round? Or do you see those in a trade package?
Man, that's tough. Recent history would lead you to believe that the Kings might use it in a trade package. I mean, they've drafted, Kenny Martin Jr., traded him.
Yep.
Xavier Tillman, traded him.
The dude to Portland, junior. I think he's a junior also. He got traded.
I'm not sure.
Oh, man. Blanking.
Can't think.
I'm blanking on the name.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Second round picks are so tough, right? Like, there's only one Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. Somebody help me here. Who did the Kings take in the second round and traded the Blazers? And Gary Trent Jr. There we go.
Yeah,
Gary Trent Jr. I was like, yes. Junior. There's so many juniors now. Junior.
Yeah.
And I'm comparing Jabari Smith Jr. with Jaren Jackson Jr. There's too many J's. There's too many juniors. Oh, man. All right. Kings have
the white
drafted
Kevin Garnett.
well.
I like that comparison, actually.
Kings have not drafted well in the second round. Yeah, the second round's a crapshoot for me.
Johnny Juzang's a good name to throw out there for a second round
I hope we
pick.
see Sharif go in the second round. Maybe not to the Kings, but I just hope he gets drafted.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see it, but one can hope.
I hope so. Sass, what's up? It's been a while. Why be mad Fox and Sabonis better than Hallie? I mean, maybe not. But, yeah, I'm just going to enjoy what we have and enjoy the other players for what I get to watch. There's no hate from me for any of those guys, unless you're on the Lakers. Ivy could change the top 3, says Fred.
Very true.
You think he moves up?
He could.
Houston?
I mean, yeah, look, there's There are so many reports about teams like the Rockets, even Oklahoma City, as liking Jaden Ivey a lot. So that alone might change it. Whether one of those teams decides to take him in the top 3 or they trade out of the top 3 with the hopes that they're going to pick him up later at 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
Detroit really wants him too. So do they try to move up, into the top 4, top 3 to get him?
A dude from the Philippines. Is that Kai Soto?
I'm not sure 100%.
I think so. I think I've seen a bunch of clips on this guy, Kai Soto, from the Philippines. I've seen some highlights. The dude looks great, but you never know. He's 7'2", and I have no idea where he's going. I don't even see him on this mock draft.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. Maybe they can take him in the second round if he's even available. What are your thoughts, Fred, on Kai Soto? There was a dude last year in the draft, the other Kai Jones? No. Yes.
That like going to Charlotte?
Yeah, that I wanted the Kings to take in the second round. But yeah, I mean, I'm not so worried about the second round at this point just because it's such a crapshoot, and I'm more worried about the first round. I would be entertaining trades for those picks, or if a guy was to fall. But I think the Kings are pretty adamant right now that they need win-now players. And I don't know how many second-round picks are win-now players. Like, we've seen Draymond Green, we've seen even Joker, but it takes them a while.
But those guys were not considered win-now players at the time they were drafted. That's not – you don't use that term in the second round. So.
Yeah. If we draft Kai, it would mean we don't believe in Keita, says Sass. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if Keita's even on the team next year.
I hope he is.
Do you remember that the Kings used to have Jabari Smith Sr.?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
actually.
that was a while ago. And there was who was it? Is it Paulo's mom played on the Monarchs?
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think she played with the Sacramento Monarchs. So that'd be pretty cool to have that connection. But like I said, I'm a little worried about the Duke big man thing.
Yeah.
It's I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious, but yeah, another Duke big man. I'm kind of holding back on this. Any other guys that you want to mention? I mean, we talked about Bennedict Mathurin before. A guy that we were talking about before that I was really surprised, Patrick Baldwin Jr. Has dropped a ton. The dude's projected to go to the Spurs at pick 20. You and I have drafted him in NBA 2K a ton of times.
Yes.
Ends up being the best player in this entire draft class.
Yeah, well, just like
it's 2K.
You shouldn't give financial advice for a betting website. You shouldn't give maybe prospect advice on 2K, but
it's 2K, but he's a wing. What are your thoughts on Patrick Baldwin Jr.? What do you think he can bring to the league? Is this a guy that maybe a team could pick up late, maybe get a steal?
Yeah, I see him as being one of those potential late first-round guys that, could really make an impact 2-3 years down the line. It's all about how he progresses, in the pro game. But in terms of the Kings, I don't think it's really worth talking a lot about Patrick Baldwin Jr. because they're picking too high in the first round for him.
Yeah.
And by the time they pick again in the second round, he'll probably be gone.
Unless they move down.
But they'd have to move down a lot in order to justify taking Baldwin Jr. or whatever pick it is.
Here's the reason I brought that up is because Sass here, shout out to Sass. Did you hear James Ham said that we were going to trade our pick for John Collins last year, but the Hawks backed down last minute? If the Kings were to trade this pick for a guy like John Collins and move down to maybe where the Hawks are drafting, which is pick 16, which is right around a good area where maybe you could take a guy like Pat Baldwin.
Yeah.
But I'll let Calvin give his thoughts here in a second. The concern I have for going after a guy like John Collins, and I said this already, but I'll say it again. John Collins makes a lot of money. If you're to go after a guy like DeAndre Ayton, I like Ayton a lot. I think you should definitely make calls on a guy like that, but he makes a lot of money as well. I think you're better off moving up to pick number 2, taking a guy that's going to make $9-10 million a year to solidify that position for the foreseeable future. You have him locked up for 4 years, and you still have some salary cap flexibility. Cal?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good assessment. I like John Collins, but the guy hasn't quite been consistent enough as a, top tier player in the NBA for me to justify sending a huge trade package out for him, and that including something like the number 4 pick, especially if it's possible to move up to number 2. Now, maybe it's not possible, but I'd be cautious about the type of deal that I would be giving up in order to get John Collins.
Yeah, I agree. Charlie, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, man? You seem very negative today. Let's be real. The 4th pick isn't worth shit in this draft. We don't know, man. We don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But maybe I can cheer you up here. We're giving away a $250 Fanatics gift card. If you guys have not entered in, it's easy. All you got to do is click on the link that I just posted in the chat, like the video, subscribe to that channel, and write your favorite team down below. Maybe Charlie will win a $250 Fanatics gift card. Maybe he can get himself, a Jabari Smith jersey or something like that. That's a joke, Charlie. You can spend it on whatever you'd like. Patrick says he likes Harrison Barnes better than John Collins.
That's tough. Like, I love Harrison Barnes, but he's getting older. That he only has 1 year left on his deal, but he still makes a decent amount of money for a guy that is a very solid player, but is not like one of the statistically the best contributing players to your team. He's a really solid all around player. John Collins definitely has more upside at this point, in both players' careers, I would say. He's younger.
Yep.
And that's a tough call. They play different positions, yes, although the Kings do like to play Harrison at the 4 at times, but I definitely consider them different players overall.
Yeah. And the thing about Harrison Barnes is, just like we were talking about how the Kings need to impress Domantas Sabonis to make him stay, Harrison Barnes is entering in the last year of his contract at $18 million. Yes, we traded for him once, and we were able to re-sign him, but does he stay again? He'll be 31 when this contract is up. He might look at the Kings and say, sorry, guys, I'm moving on. I want to compete for another ring or something like that. Or maybe he does sign on, but he costs $20+ million. So I'm not sure how much longer Harrison Barnes will remain on this roster, but I think the draft and what happens this year in free agency will have a big impact on him. But I wouldn't be surprised if HB was shipped out before the deadline, because he's a valuable player. Yeah. Expiring contract could help a championship team or maybe a contending team become a championship level team. And, if the Kings start sliding like they do, he's the first one that's getting traded, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for him to be one of the Kings' most tradable players. From the Kings' perspective. If you're another team, you might not want Harrison Barnes, but if the Kings are trying to make a deal for whether it's to move up in the draft, move down, acquire better talent, to me, Richaun Holmes and Harrison Barnes are the first 2 people that I'm dangling out in front of other teams.
Yep. Yeah, and draft picks, I'd throw draft picks in there as well. I saw someone mention that the Kings don't want to trade their draft pick, but Kings draft picks are valuable. Like, it's got to be one of the most valuable draft picks in the league, right? If you're looking at like teams over the last 10 years, the Kings draft pick has been consistently bad or good, whatever way you want to look at it. And if you're the Kings and you're like, okay, we need to make this final push, we need to make the playoffs, how much are draft picks really going to help me? Are they? Is next year's draft pick going to help me make the playoffs this season? Is next year's draft pick even going to help me make the playoffs next season? Or am I better off trading it for a guy that can help me win now, because my job now matters, right? Yeah. If you're Monty, you're like, I'm fighting for my job now, not my job 4 years from now. And that's kind of the situation I get in. And I contradict myself sometimes too, right? Because I just said I'd rather have a top 2 pick in this draft versus a guy like John Collins. But it's a balance that they got to figure out. Sass says trading up would be the ideal situation, but OKC would have to be willing to do so. Trading down would get us the most bang for the buck, seeing how so many teams want Ivy. Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of those. It takes two to tango. OKC's wanted draft picks in the past, so maybe you could get them to go for a trade. But, you know, if you are able to move up to pick number 2, and this draft ends up turning into a 2-player draft in Holmgren and Smith, maybe that's the best bang for your buck, is securing one of those guys. Because, like Calvin said, like, I think Jabari Smith is like a lock to be a really, really good NBA player. For me, Chet Holmgren is that unicorn where he could be an amazing generational talent, or he could be the next Greg Oden.
Oh, wow.
And I hate to be
those strong words.
Yeah,
right
I
there.
mean, I hate to be like that, but you look at a guy like that, and he's big and he's skinny, and maybe he's not fragile looking, but it's like, okay, you weigh less than 200 pounds, and you're going to be banging inside with everybody. Like, I'm drafting you to be good now, and I'm drafting you to be good in 10 years from now, because when you're drafting number 2 overall, you don't want a Marvin Bagley. So, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. All right, Mike's, who y'all trading, or who y'all going with at pick number 4?
Who am I going with at pick 4? Nobody. I don't want to pick at 4.
No, you want Keegan Murray at 4.
Yeah, I mean, so Keegan Murray is actually one of the only guys we haven't talked about yet. I like him a lot. He might be my favorite player, actually, overall in this draft. Not necessarily meaning that I think he has the highest ceiling or the most potential of anybody in this draft, but I think he might be the most NBA-ready player from a body and talent-wise standpoint. I love him. I think he fits so many areas of need for this team. He's incredibly versatile. Like, if you go back and watch his film at Iowa, not only was he the nation's best scorer and had an insane Big Ten tournament performance, but defensively, he brings that to the table as well. At times, he played the 5 for Iowa, anchored their defense. They also put him on the point in their full court press. Like, he can do so many different types of things. And again, I think the fit for the Kings as a team is really, really great as well. So I love Keegan Murray for Sacramento, which for me, trading down, to get him and another player could be the best option for them.
And maybe you do have to end up taking Jaden Ivey and trading him. I don't know. That's really tough. Progressive G, random fact, Jabari Smith Sr. and Kwame Brown are cousins. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Steven, what's up, dude? Good to see you. We missed you earlier on Basketball at the Bar. Rockets need to draft Banchero. Yes. Or Banchero. Yes. John Collins is a power forward. Yeah, I mean, we saw Harrison Barnes play the power forward position a lot this season as well. 2, King James Las Vegas Knights basketball team. What do you think? We just talked about this earlier. Las Vegas Knights draft Bronny James. The problem with that is, can LeBron be the owner of the team and play on the team? I don't know. And Calvin had a good point. LeBron said he wants to play his last year with his son. So maybe LeBron stays with the Lakers. They draft Bronny James. Then LeBron retires, starts his own team, and then maybe they trade for Bronny, or they get him in the expansion draft.
Expansion draft, yeah.
Very, very interesting.
God, that would be so fucking crazy if that actually happened.
What do you think he's going to name the team?
I don't know.
I'm
assuming he will be asking for a lot of input. It won't just be his decision.
One of the 2K teams that you can download is called the Las Vegas Aces, but is that a WNBA team?
It is a WNBA.
Is it current, or
Yes.
it was an X team?
Current team.
So they currently play in Las Vegas.
Becky Hammond is their coach, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not a WNBA. I'm a fan, but I don't watch all the games and all the teams.
Oh, I don't watch any games, but I know who the teams are.
What could King James call his team in Las Vegas? I don't know. The Royal Flushes?
It's a pretty awful name for a basketball team, I think.
RP, what's up, RP? It's been a while since we've seen you. Harrison is the worst defender on closeouts in the league.
Las Vegas roids.
Can he go ASAP? I think he'll be leaving soon, but we will see. Patrick loves Christian Wood. So do we.
Yeah.
What do you think? Could you see a situation where he ends up with Sacramento?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, it's possible. I mean, Houston is probably looking at drafting Banchero, right? Who you could slide into the power forward position, play him next to Alfred Sagan, maybe, who at your 5. So then, from that standpoint, you might think that Christian Wood is expendable a little bit, but Christian Wood right now is a better player than both those guys. So I don't really know what it would take to get him away from Houston.
Yeah, and I don't know why Houston would want to trade him unless he doesn't want to be there. But I like Christian Wood a lot. I would love to have him on this team. Jim's got a good point here. He's talking about Mike Brown, defensive-minded coach, and maybe Keegan Murray is the Mike Brown guy.
Yeah, well, for me, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this broadcast. Kings need to focus on a bunch of things, acquiring talent, but they've got to be better defensively. Like, they have to go out and draft players that are going to play defense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sass. I mean, Oklahoma City is probably one of the toughest teams to even figure out what they want, right? Like, I think they're on their way to building the next KD, Westbrook, and Harden. They just are trying to figure it out and how to not screw it up like they did last time. I don't know if they're in that spot where they are starting to like, okay, we need some win now players, or if they're still just like, we don't really see anybody we like. We're just going to keep developing the young guys we have, keep adding draft picks. We'll be the league-wide team that can take on salary dumps, and we'll just take first-round picks from there.
Yeah.
That's tough. And maybe they're waiting. Maybe they're like, we need to wait until the Warriors calm down. We need to wait until some of these other teams that have dominated, lose their edge. And maybe that's sooner rather than later. All right. Stephen Rose likes Keegan Murray. Marvin Bagley kicks rocks. Vegas and Seattle. Yeah, I think they are the top 2 teams right now in terms of expansion franchises. I wonder who would get the Seattle team. Maybe it's the dude from Nike. His bid was rejected by the Blazers.
Oh, I didn't see that, actually.
It was officially rejected, and they said the team is not for sale. It will be in the future, but it's not now. Kind of sounds like the Elon Musk Twitter thing, right?
Yeah.
They're like, Twitter's not for sale, and then 2 weeks later, all right, we'll sell you Twitter. Negotiation 101, I guess. 2 says, hey, the Kings need to put the opponent Rams 2 inches higher to win a championship. We saw that yesterday. That was pretty wild. What were your guys' thoughts on the game yesterday? Because there was a lot of stuff going on. And if you've been watching basketball at the bar, you know that Calvin and I were spot on yesterday's game. And if you weren't, what are you doing with your life? Go subscribe to Basketball at the Bar. Calvin and I are live on that channel almost every single day. So if you guys miss us, if you're bummed that you only get to see us once a week right now in Royal Rebounds because the Kings are not in the playoffs, check us out on Basketball at the Bar. We would love to have you guys. And I'm going to post the link one more time here. We're giving away a Fanatics gift card for $250 to get Charlie a Jabari Smith jersey. So make sure you guys go watch that video, follow the instructions. It's only like 30 seconds long. Enter in to win the gift card. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man, watching that game yesterday.
Yeah.
And the flagrant foul I don't know, dude. Just like the thing that frustrates me the most about this whole thing now with the flagrant fouls and all this stuff, and I'm sorry I'm going on a little tangent here, but I'm going to do it, is just listening to the announcers. Because now you even have Jeff Van Gundy that's like, oh, that's a flagrant foul. And it's like, what are you talking about, Jeff? Calm down. And he's like, the way they call it now, it's a flagrant foul. And he's just so adamant. And he's right.
He's right.
He is right. But like 3 years ago, he would be talking so much shit about that being a flagrant foul.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I mean, they still do that, to some degree. But
ooh, the Las Vegas Jackpots.
oh, hey,
I don't know.
there
They
you
probably
go.
never hit because I never hit one when I'm in Vegas. They'd only be good on the road, huh?
What about Las Vegas Sportsbook?
Oh, that's a good name. That's a good name.
Who
Las
are you betting on
Vegas
today?
Generals.
Las Vegas Sportsbook. No. Who are you betting on? Las Vegas Sportsbook.
I'm betting on the Las Vegas Sportsbook at the Las Vegas Sportsbook. Patrick says, we need shooting. What about getting Duncan Robinson? Hell no. I don't want no Duncan Robinson on this team. We need shooting, but we need defense. Like, we've watched 10 years of good shooting and no defense on the Kings. Do I want to continue that?
If you could get
Hell
Duncan
no.
Robinson for less than $17 million a year or whatever the hell it is, I'd be interested.
I'll trade for Duncan Robinson if they throw in Tyler Hero or Jimmy Butler.
All right.
Sass
Enough
says,
2K.
Sass says the Celtics look like a better team. Yeah, I mean, that's what Calvin's been saying all along is fully healthy, they got more, and they are healthy, and the Warriors are not. Duncan Robinson, Harrison Barnes. Oh, you guys are going crazy about Duncan Robinson. And his defense makes him unplayable. Agreed. What is this? Brown could turn Keegan into Draymond Green with a jumper. Wow, that's a bold take, Jim. Hopefully he doesn't get ejected or foul out like Draymond Green. What do you think?
What do I think about that comparison?
Yeah, Mike Brown and his effect on Keegan Murray.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Mike Brown will have, if they get the right type of player for him, a guy that plays defense and is versatile, can play a few different positions, guard a bunch of positions. Andrew Wiggins is another one that comes to mind. Like, I think that Mike Brown, it will be good for that. Absolutely.
Did Mike Brown coach Anthony Bennett?
It's a good question.
Because
I don't remember.
Because remember, so LeBron left, right? He went to Miami. Then they had the Clippers pick, and they got Kyrie and Tristan Thompson. They had 1 and 4.
Yep.
Then they took Dion Waiters, I think, the next year. And I think Mike Brown came back for a small stint there, right? Wasn't it 1 year, and then he got fired, and then they hired David Blatt, and then LeBron came, and they had Blatt, and then he got fired, and then they brought in the rookie guy, who's the Clippers head coach now.
Tyronn Lue.
Yeah, interesting. I like Mike Brown a lot. I'm not throwing any shade at Mike Brown. I was just trying to catch up here. There's so many things going on. Yeah. Anthony, what's up, Anthony? Anthony says, I think the difference was Warriors D was lacking. Celtics kept attacking the paint due to the lack of rim protection. The Celtics are just too big.
They are big. I mean, it hurt them in game 1 playing that big lineup, but it definitely worked in game 3. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's more about the Celtics defense than it is the Warriors defense, but.
Yeah, and for me, it's Draymond Green is not in the right mental state, and he's hurting his team, and Curry's injured and all that, and they're getting old. The Warriors haven't chosen a path. They're like, we want to support our old veterans and win them a chip, and we also want to have all the young guys and have them do well in the future, but there's no bridge. Wiggins is maybe the closest to the bridge in the middle, but I think if they want to win another championship, and I could be wrong because they could win this one, but I think they need to figure out either they're going to trade the big guys to bring in more guys that are on the young guys timeline, or they're going to trade the young guys and bring in more help for the veterans.
They're going to have some tough questions to answer for sure.
It's tough. Charlie, to get the gift card, all you need to do is click on the link that I posted in the chat, watch the video. It's 30 seconds long. You just like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment your favorite team down below, and then when we reach 1,000 subscribers on that channel, we will give away the gift card to one lucky person, and we'll mail it to you. We'll email it to you, whatever method you prefer. All right, who's up next? Key Kings, hey, good to see you again. Patrick, what about Nick Ross?
Yes, Kevin, yes. I was on this channel all year long pleading for the Kings not to trade for Ben Simmons. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate the super chat. Are you glad you didn't trade for Ben Simmons? Yeah. I mean, I was on the Ben Simmons trade boat like last offseason, and then like a month into the season, I was like, no, I don't want to trade for him anymore because I don't know what he's going to do. I didn't even remember when I say I was like, is he even going to play?
One knows what
is he even going to play this season? So yeah, happy we avoided that.
But I bet you're glad that they traded him.
I'm happy we avoided that. But at the same time, did we get better? I don't know. Maybe next season, but we didn't have a great year last year. Patrick says, what about Nick Rocks? You know who that is?
I don't actually. It sounds like it's a joke.
Yeah. All I know is
what
D's. Patrick, do you know D's? That's all I know. I don't know about Nick Rocks. Please don't mention Keegan Ivey or bust, says Billy.
Don't rewatch this episode then.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You got a Pepe in your profile picture, Billy? That's cool. A rare Pepe. Key King says, basically 2 weeks left until the draft. It is 2 weeks, exactly, to the day. Is it me, or did this go by really fast? Yeah, it really did. It did go by fast. I mean, the whole playoffs went by fast. Calvin and I, we started basketball at the bar day one of the NBA playoffs, and it's gone by extremely fast. What did we finish, episode 43 today?
I think so, yeah.
Which is wild. But exciting playoffs. Exciting offseason so far for the Kings. They got their head coach and Mike Brown. We moved up in the draft lottery. Like, it's been an amazing month. So I'm just excited to get here into the draft for sure. Oh, Stauskas. Oh, you're talking about Sauce Castillo.
That's right.
Okay. He's with the Celtics now, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think we got to see him play at all. Also a three-point shooter that doesn't play any defense. I'd probably rather have him over Duncan Robinson.
Oh, wow, really?
I mean, he's costing much less.
Well, yes, from a financial standpoint, yeah, for sure.
Sass says, Ivy would create such a logjam. Monty would have to think he's a star player to be worth it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're getting at with the guards.
Totally.
Shaedon Sharpe could potentially play the 3, and maybe you move HB to the 4 and play him, but he's got even more question marks than Jaden Ivey. So that's really tough. Wow, we've been live for over an hour already, Calvin. I know you got to get ready. No, you're off work today, huh?
I am not off work.
You're working today, so we can go to
work
Waikiki
today so I can play this weekend.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we're done talking about the draft right now. But hey, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. We're happy to stick around here for a few more minutes and answer any questions, thoughts, concerns. If you like Calvin's Ben Drinkin shirt or my Nilo's shirt, if you're ever in Maui by the airport in Paia, there's an amazing restaurant called Nilo's. My friend Jeremy is the owner. If you're ever there, tell him that Calvin and Barry sent you. He's an awesome guy, and we'll definitely take care of you guys. But yeah, if you have any more questions, drop them here in the chat. And also, don't forget to like the video. I see we got 23 likes. That means we had 23 Kings fans in here. I'd like to see a little bit more than that, but we appreciate all the likes.
I see 24.
Also, please subscribe to the channel. Please share this with all your favorite Kings fans. Calvin and I are going to be putting out a ton of interesting Kings content on this channel during the offseason. Also, don't forget to go subscribe to our other channel, Basketball at the Bar. We're going to be doing a ton of stuff on there. If you like NBA 2K, check us out. We're going to be doing some 2K rebuilds. If you'd like to play online with us, hit us up on Instagram or on Twitter, and we'll definitely arrange a time to come hang out and play with you guys. All right, Patrick, watch Monty get someone we weren't thinking of. I mean, if you watched our the past 2 years? No, 2 years ago, we didn't even think Tyrese Halliburton was going to be available, right? So we didn't even talk about him in our draft special.
Yeah.
And then bam, he goes. We talked a little bit about Davion Mitchell last year, but not too much. But you got to think that if you have pick 4, it's a lot easier to kind of narrow down what the potential is if you do draft with that pick. Oh, this is a good question. Jim says, is there an oh shit no pick at 4?
Probably not for me. I mean, unless you're going to take somebody like...
Jaden Ivey's that guy for you.
No, he's not an oh shit no pick for me. He's just not the person that I would take. But, I mean, they'd have to take like Patrick Baldwin Jr. at number 4 for me to go like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I would not be happy if they drafted a guard, but as long as they take somebody that's projected to go in the top 6 or 7, I think I'd be okay, or at least I wouldn't be throwing things at my television. Yeah. But if they took an Anthony Bennett or somebody like that, that would be, I would be angry. I'd be angrier than I was over probably the Halliburton trade.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you saw me. I wasn't that happy, but
no, you weren't.
We were in Sacramento.
We were more shocked at the time trying to get ready for a show.
Yeah, we were at Punch Bowl Social. Yeah. We were going to the games. We got to see Sabonis the next day. Great times. Sass, yes, we will be streaming live on this channel during the draft. We'll be watching it with you guys. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll post the link ahead of time so you guys will know exactly the time. And also, yes, hit the notification bell. That notification cowbell on our channel, and it'll notify you guys every time we post a new video or when we schedule a video for a live stream. Jim says, what's your take on Sharpe? Sharpe's difficult because there's not much to look at.
Yeah, I mean, you have to base your assessment of him purely off of workouts, scrimmages, and what he did in high school, which, there's definitely been players that have gone on to succeed big time in those situations, but they're far and few to come by. So he certainly has all the potential in the world, and there's a lot of reasons why you would be interested in drafting him, I think, for a big handful of teams, not just Sacramento. But he might be the biggest, highest risk, highest reward type pick out there.
Yeah, this dude could be an absolute home run or slam dunk for a team that takes him, or he could be out of the league in a couple of years. It's really hard to tell, but the dude has a ton of talent. There's a reason he's projected to go pick number 5. When I was watching videos of Sharpe and Ivey, personally, I think that Sharpe fits better with the Sacramento Kings roster, especially with a guy like De'Aaron Fox, because he's a much better off-ball shooter. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. But you're right, high risk, high reward. We haven't really seen much from this guy. So I don't know if the Kings are in a position to take that kind of gamble. Unless, like you said, maybe you are able to get a guy like an Ayton or get a guy, like John Collins and not give up that draft pick.
Yeah, that makes taking a swing for somebody like that more better, I would say.
Yeah. What's up, Ivan? Ivan is scared of Sharpe as well. Yeah, he's a really, really tough prospect. Who was it that went a few years ago that they were talking about? It was like the international man of mystery. Murray, I don't remember the guy's name. I think he ended up with like Denver or something. Fell out of the league in just a couple years. And then I think he played with the Kings. Emmanuel Mudiay.
Oh, yeah.
You remember? He was the mystery where people were like, we haven't seen much from him. He could be an incredible player or he could be out of the league. He was out pretty quick. Signed with the Kings last year or the year before. Played a little bit.
He was on a 10-day contract.
Yeah, played a little bit.
COVID
and
outbreak.
We haven't seen much from him after that. So,
or I guess this year, right? It's technically not over yet.
Chet and Sabonis would be a great duo.
Yeah, I would love that.
I like Jabari and Sabonis as well. I think they would do great. RP says Zach LaVine and Jabari or Chet. This will be the big offseason move. I mean, RP, if this happens, I'm going to be doing some partying with you guys because that is an absolute home run. Is it going to happen? Probably not. but that's okay. I think we'll get a good player here in the draft, and Monty's going to be very aggressive in the offseason, so we'll make some stuff happen. William, Sharpe's no good because he didn't play at KU. Then a four-year student who did 2 years more of postgraduate work should be automatic number one pick, all that experience.
Takes a lot more than experience to be the number one pick. In fact, the NBA drafts far more based on talent and potential than they do on experience. Also, I'm sorry, I have to be a little bit of a stickler here. KU is Kansas, UK is Kentucky, but I'm just a stickler.
I was going to let it go, Calvin. I was going to let it go. Anyways, I hope you guys are excited. 2 weeks away from the NBA draft. So make sure you guys join us. We'll be live next Thursday on this channel. So make sure you guys join us for that, for some Kings content, and then we'll be live during the draft. Calvin, any last words before we end the stream here?
Thank you guys for watching. I mean, all of this stuff is, just all speculation at this point, and it's really fun. But we are only 2 weeks away, and we get to find out actually what happens, and then you can really dive deep into what it means for the team. So I hope that everybody is along for the ride for more shows coming up here.
Yes, we appreciate you guys so much. We understand that everybody's busy, everybody has a life, and we really appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us, taking the time out of your day to just listen to us talk, because in reality, all we're doing is just sitting up here and rambling for an hour or two about the Sacramento Kings, which is a lot of fun for us. So we greatly appreciate all your support. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Please share this video with all your friends, and we appreciate all the super chats from you all. Wendell Moore at Pick 4 says, Charlie, we'll see about that, Charlie. We'll talk about it next week. But thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you all. Have an amazing Thursday. Have an amazing weekend. I'm going to post the link one more time to Basketball at the Bar if you guys would like to enter in the contest to win the $250 Fanatics gift card. It is quite easy. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. And in the meantime, go Kings.